All right, so good evening, everybody. Mamza here, along with my CEO, Timbo,
Timbo's his name.
and
Yeah.
our spotlight series tonight featuring Lion out of Northwest Ohio.
Correct.
So, welcome, Lion. We appreciate you coming on and being a part of our Spotlight series. And of
Yeah,
course,
I appreciate being on.
now this is why I always have water with me. I obviously talk too much.
You're getting parched?
Getting a little parched,
Look.
yes, yes. So, um, basically, what I typically start with, Lion, is just, tell us, a little about yourself. First name, um, just some personal facts that people might not know about Lion, the Smash player.
Yeah. So my name's Cole. I am a contract accountant currently. So I kind of go into different companies and kind of console and fix their issues. As the one tweet said, I have a master's in finance and an undergrad in accounting and finance. I'm old for a Smash player, and I started as an old Smash player, which
Like
is kind of a
Timbo.
little weird. Yeah.
Even older.
Yeah,
You would
even
believe it.
I'm older than
He's
yeah.
even older than I
Twitter
am.
wouldn't let you believe, but I'm older than Timbo. Yeah, a funny story about that is I was deciding between Smash and a golf league, and I was like, screw it, I'll play Smash. That's kind of how I started.
You picked the more athletic one, so I'm proud of you for that.
Right. Well, I was a golfer in high school, but I was like, I don't know, I still got a little youth in me, right?
Right. Just a
A
little.
little.
When we all hold
Yeah.
on to that little bit of youth in us.
Right.
It's like,
So
our bodies, may chronologically age, but, as long as we keep a young mind, I think we're all good where that's concerned. So,
It's like in Dragon Squad. Mom's chronologically older than I am, but I think spiritually, we all know who's a little bit older, but anyway.
okay, you range from like 12 to 48.
Exactly.
Like,
There you go.
yeah, you're either a 12-year-old or old man.
oh,
Fair enough.
I love it. So, let's start out this way. I'm gonna change up the format just a little bit, but I know people saw that I, put out there about your gamer tag. If you want to
Yeah.
talk about it, which obviously I did some of my research. I know a little bit about where it comes from, and at the same time, I think it's very important as well. So why don't you tell us how you came to be known as Lion?
Yeah, so my tag was originally Buy Me a Lamp, which that has a funny backstory to it. But I decided at some point, like, as stupid as that tag is and kind of funny, I would eventually change it. And so I had a friend from about 10 years ago, it's like now 8 or 9 years ago, that I used to write on the Atlanta Hawks with named Bo. And he was obsessed with The Lion King and Simba. And we were really good friends. And we started to fade apart a little bit. And then 3 years ago, last May, I got a phone call from one of our other friends who also wrote on the Hawks about Bo committing suicide. And so I think of him a lot, and I think it was good to change my tag. And if people ask me, why is your tag Lion? I'd like to tell them about Bo, and I like to tell them, like, yeah, mental. One thing I say to a lot of our Smash players, because I'm a TO, community leader, et cetera, is, how important mental health is, and I want to take care of my guys, and my tag is part of that. And the reason why that triggered my tag change a little bit too was I had another friend that committed suicide, and it's a common thing, and people really need to look at their mental health and take care of it, and we need to form better systems around that to take care of it. So I decided change my tag, honor my friend, and yeah.
And you couldn't be more correct about that. I mean, we've all seen, unfortunately, what the Indiana Smash scene just recently went through with the loss of, Benson Obama over there.
Yeah.
And mental health is very important. I mean, you know, this is a competitive game, and people are competitors, and they play it because they want to compete and be high-level competitors. But it should never be at the risk of your own mental health.
Right.
First and foremost, I think people should have fun. And if it's starting to affect your mental health, then, you need to take that time away and you need to recenter yourself. And if you need resources, there are plenty of resources out there. It's important to Timbo and I too. We want to look out for our community as well, being TOs, and that's an important part of it as well. Not it kind of goes hand in hand with the implosion of the Smash community and in the summertime with all the allegations that were coming out. I mean, we want to have a safe environment and a healthy environment for everybody to compete in.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of times, Smash ends up being people's social life to the point where it's a huge part of it. And like I said, having people in your scene that are looking out for you is just such a big deal.
It really is. I couldn't agree more. It's kind of like I put out there, mom is in my tag for a reason. And it's like I'll be everybody.
Right.
It's like I'll be everybody's mom if I have to. You know what I mean? But it's in there for a reason. And Fritos is actually the one that gave me my gamer tag. So you've already alluded to it, and I was going to get around to this because I thought it was really cool. You mentioned the Atlanta Hawks. And I know that you gave me some information that you used to be a freelance sport writer for the NBA and soccer. I took soccer, I thought, to mean like MLS, but let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's I think that's pretty cool actually to be a freelancer and you're talking to NBA players and teams.
Yeah. So in about 2011, there was kind of the explosion of sports blogging and blogging in general, but sports blogging kind of took a huge leap forward. And ESPN kind of started an initiative where they did websites for each team. And I thought it was really cool, and I was like, well, I want to be a part of that. So I started writing on my own about the NBA. And I wrote a little bit on the NFL when I was writing on my own, but I never really got anywhere with that. And I eventually got picked up with a couple different networks that were affiliated with Sports Illustrated and USA Today, and then eventually I kind of made it onto a couple of those team websites. The one I was on the longest was the Atlanta Hawks. And around that time also, ESPN on the main webpage had like a nightly live chat on the NBA, like a text chat where people would come in and talk, and I helped moderate that. And that was kind of my side hustle during my undergrad, and there was a part of me that really wanted to pursue that. It kind of ended up not working out in the end, but it was a cool experience. I still have my old press badge passes that say ESPN.com on them, and I made a little bit of money, but yeah, I mean, it was great. In a lot of ways, Smash Twitter is so interesting because it brings people together. I love the game, I'm from Ohio, someone loves the game from California, and I can get to know them just through that mutual thing we both like. And that's kind of how the basketball internet was from like 2011 to 2014 for me. And then when I did write about soccer, I did actually write about the European teams, like the Premier League and all that. So yeah, I mean, awesome. It was fun. It was a really great experience.
Sounds like
There's times where I'm like, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say sometimes I even think like, should I try to get back into that? But yeah, it's also a hard field to crack, and once you start getting paid for it, it gets a little interesting because when you're doing it for free, you can do all passion projects, but once you get paid for it, you're kind of getting funneled into certain directions unless you are the cream of the crop in the industry. So yeah, I mean, it was great. I enjoyed it. I made a lot of friends that I still talk to today about.
It
just
sounds like
anything.
you had a great time with it. Was it just exclusively for the Atlanta Hawks? And if so, how did it end up with like the Hawks instead of like the Cavaliers since you're from Ohio?
Yeah, so I started writing out on a smaller network of websites on the Pistons. But really, it's one of those fields that, if you do good work and people like you, you can, I mean, I worked with Bo, who my tag's based off of now, and Bo was the one who was actually in Atlanta interviewing the players. I would do more of the analysis type pieces on, statistically, what should the general management of the team do? These are plays the coaches are making for the fourth best player on the team to get them involved. So I dabbled more in the analytical side and occasionally wrote some pieces that were more like, I hate to say artistic, but I'll link, I have Google Docs from like old drafts. I'll link one after this interview tonight of probably like my favorite thing that I wrote. And it was cool because when I got to do it for less money or no money at all, like the things I got to write about and the freedom I had was fun.
Yeah, please do link something like that. I mean, or send it to me, and I'll put it up on our Twitter account, or however you want to do it. I definitely like to check it out.
Since you have experience with that medium and in that field, have you considered? I'm sure it's come across your mind before, but have you considered doing more of like the passion type project stuff for Smash? Since you
I
have that
thought about
background?
it is interesting, that I used to write about sports, and esports writing is a very similar type of writing. And now that I play Smash, I thought about like combining those two. But I haven't really done it yet. The big thing about one thing that me personally, I don't like to do things halfway. When I was practicing Smash during this quarantine, like I practiced a ton, and when I was writing, I would go to my classes during the day, and then I would be in my room 8 hours a night, just consuming basketball and writing about it. And so part of me wonders with that, if I were to do it, I would be really invested in it. And I'm like, is now the time? Is kind of my thought process with it. But I have thought about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, it's a form of a sport. I mean, that's why it has esports in it, right?
Right.
So you said that you would go and write for 8 hours. Do you practice 8 hours of Smash a day?
Not anymore. No, I mean there's been days where I've played that much. Something I've kind of realized the past month is way too many players burn themselves out on the game and play too much and play past the point of productivity. And I was like that, and I've kind of learned to rein it back a little bit and I haven't been playing much at all just because, with this vaccine news, I know when locals come back, I'll be playing way too much, and I'm like, let me go see what else I'm interested in. But
Like Hades.
I've also, like Hades.
Like Hades.
I'm probably going to play Hades after this interview since you've been talking about it.
You should.
But I've also kind of learned that, like, you are better off playing 90 minutes of the game really productively than playing the game for 3 hours and autopiloting for 2 hours. So
So that's
kind of cut
something,
back on that.
that's something you and I have talked about before. And really, like Monsa and I talk about, like, who are really good people to have on our player spotlight. And we don't just want to have good players on, right? We want good players who have different outlooks on the game, who bring something to like either the philosophy or the mentality of competition. So we've talked a lot about the mentality, but you and I have talked a lot about more the philosophy behind competitive Smash. And you are very vocal about how players should be approaching locals and how players should be approaching friendlies, right? So you and I have talked before where you think that players approach locals and approach friendlies. You think most players do it the wrong way, and it actually hinders their progress. So go ahead and talk a little bit, about how do you approach friendlies and what do you get out of friendlies, and then how do you approach locals, and then how does your mindset shift for a monthly?
Yeah, so with friendlies, the biggest thing that I think I see is just players are so focused on winning to the point where they will play the game 50 times in a row the same exact way if it wins 50 times in a row. And while that can work, the fact of the matter is if you are not exploring new solutions and different answers to different problems, you will never progress as a player. Like, I see a lot of people who, like, grind Elite Smash, and Elite Smash gets a worse rep than it really does, but they'll grind it, and they'll play these online best of threes, and they play to win, and they do the same thing. Like, I see so many players that stock one, game one, they do literally the same exact thing, whether it works or not. And that is their mentality is, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this thing that I always do. And if you're not ready to get bopped in the mouth for doing that and understanding in the middle of that, like, oh no, this isn't working, I got to switch my game plan up, you're going to find somebody in bracket that's going to do that. And there's people... sometimes I hate talking about this because I feel like people get really offended and they're like, oh, is he talking about me? But there's people I'll play them, let's say November 1st, and I won't play them for 3 weeks. And I play them again, and it's like November 25th, and they are playing the exact same way. It's like it's the most
He's talking about me.
They're playing the same exact way, and it's like I loaded up a program and put in, mid-level player bot into the other. Like, I'm playing a level 10 CPU at that point. It's almost like, and yeah, I think there's a lot of things that I work on, and there's a reason why sometimes I only practice with people I trust, because it's like I'm working on something, I'm trying to do something that's a little different. I might look like an idiot. I might SD 3 times. But, and you know this, you saw my zero suit when I was at the very beginning. Yeah. So, but you gotta be willing to make yourself look stupid in friendlies and try things and just put yourself out there, because you don't know when you're gonna need some really weird mix-up or some really deep edge guard in a bracket to win it. And then when it comes to locals, I kind of have the similar mentality, but I'm obviously there to win a little bit more. I think one of the things that I think with the local scene that people don't understand is there are so many Smash players beyond your local scene. Like, you could have a bracket demon at your local. You lose to this guy every time. And outside of your local region, if you take 100 Smash players and you both play them and you beat 60 of these people and he beats 40, well, that just says that guy's really good against you. He might not be better than you, and local scenes don't have that context sometimes. They just want to look at set counts and say, well, player X always beats player Y, so player X is better. But the fact of the matter is, this is especially true at the not top level, because the top level, you're cutting out so many players of the game. Let's say like you take the top 200 and they usually beat everyone below them. Well, then you can look at head-to-head a little bit more. But when it's like the 1,000, I don't even know, like the 3,000th best player versus the 3,001st best player, the one guy might get smacked because the one guy's just bad against his style. But he might be better than him because there's just more people to play than the guys at your local scene. So I kind of take a similar mentality. Like, I play locals to learn.
If I recall
People will
correctly,
tell you,
there was an infamous
Yeah.
Cole walking only local. Is that
yes,
true?
yes.
Okay.
So I was working on walking. And if you know anything about my personality, I struggle to walk at anything. I run everywhere I go. Like, I'm always just full speed. So I played this game for like over a year, and I just never walked, and I never got good at walking. And one of the people who I really trust to coach me was like, you should walk more. You should understand when you want to walk, especially if you're going to play Crom, who was my main at the time, because of a lot of things that I'm not going to get too deep into on. So I was at a local,
Don't worry.
and I wasn't going to enter. And they were like, oh, come on. And I was like, honestly, I'm just working on walking. I was like, I'll enter, but I will literally only walk in neutral. And that's what I did the whole time. I got bopped for it a little bit, but I mean, that's kind of my mentality. I think a lot of people are afraid. They'll see something like they're the third best player in their sub-region, and they're afraid to play like the fifth best player in their sub-region for a few weeks to become the first best player.
Mhm.
And, that's where the monthlies and the bigger events come in. That's when you want to play hard. And obviously that mentality changes, and I start really zoning in on kind of what my opponent's doing. Because another thing that Timbo and I have talked about is you want to have a base game plan, and you want to kind of autopilot it a little bit so you can actually focus on what your opponent's doing. So when that mentality shifts, when I'm playing full speed at a monthly, I'm not even really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm 100% doing a lot of my base game plan and adjusting it to, oh, I see if I empty land next to this guy, he jumps out of shield. So now that I main Zero Suit, I can empty land up smash and get a combo starter and start a string with it. Because if you're so focused on what you're doing at that point, you can miss picking up a lot of habits. And I think that's where people get confused on, oh, I'm not good at picking up people's habits. Well, if you're focused on what you're doing the whole time, you never will pick up their habits. Because this game is fast, there's a lot of buttons happening, and you only have so much time to understand what they're doing. So yeah. Obviously a wordy answer, but...
No, I kind of fed you, like spoon-fed you the progression, said
Right,
go from
right.
point A to point C, and I don't think the train of thought derailed too much along the way. I think you did a good job there.
Not at
Oh.
all. So, you mentioned that you were playing Crom, and Timbo gave you
Yep.
the big thumbs down,
Two
which is
Two thumbs down.
this coming from a former DK main. Are you
Ah,
serious?
hey.
Hey! I don't have 4 hands, so I could give
Hey,
4
they're both-
thumbs down.
They're both low mid tiers, but
Okay.
we'll go on
And
from
now
there.
I hear you talking about ZSS Lion. So, are you saying
Yeah.
that officially when offline comes back, we're not going to see Lion maining Crom anymore? You're officially a ZSS main?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. Honestly, I don't even think Crom's like my second best character anymore. It's kind of weird now that I've stopped. Now that I've stopped practicing him.
Kind of like when Timbo stopped playing DK. I get it.
No, DK's still my best character, but that's a different story. That's a different beast.
Yeah, it was funny because the story kind of goes where I was having a conversation with Timbo, and I was like, yeah, I was playing a couple of players that were a little bit better than me, and I understand what's happening, but I just can't seem to get the situation with Crom. And he was like, honestly, have you tried ZSS? And that's kind of where it went. And she was actually, I started playing Smash 4, like right before Ultimate came out, just to get used to the game. She was like the first character I wanted to learn. So it kind of like came full circle.
Interesting. At some point, people will quit taking Timbo's advice as far as who they should make.
So here's the thing. I normally never listen to Timbo, and he'll tell you that. This was like the one time where I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll try that.
Like out of the 10 other times I've talked to you, the 11th time, yes, I'm going to listen to you this time, Timbo.
Hold on. The conversation goes a little bit deeper, right? We all know I am the #1 Crom hate account, right? I hate Crom. I think he is both horrendously under and overrated at the same time. He's Little Mac with a sword, right? So I just put that out there. Cole was saying, or Lion was saying, that, man, there are just these situations where I can't do anything. I'm like, it's probably because your character is actually really bad, and sometimes you get put into positions where you literally don't have an answer. Why don't you play ZSS, who literally always has a button or an option in every situation? He was like, Timbo, you might be right. And now that remaining ZSS, was I right? Does she literally always have a button for every situation?
Yeah. So pretty much every local I win, I'm going to hashtag blame Timbo.
Every local that you win. You know what? Every local that I win, I'll do hashtag blame Cole. So there's going to be a little differential. You know, one might be trending, one might not. One might not come up. One might. Only time will tell. You know, we'll get there.
I mean, it's like, Timbo has felt doorstop's pain from ZSS so often. I can't even believe he doesn't, like, ZSS isn't his top hated character above Crom.
Not to make this about me, right? But when you lose to someone who's playing ZSS, you're like, man, you used your brain. You did a good job. When you're losing to someone who plays Crom, it's like, oonga boonga, me swing sword. Killed you with up, be it 0. Like, it's just, it's not the same thing.
Okay, and that's the way it is with all sorties in Smash, whether it's Shulk or Ike or Marth or Lucina.
Is incredibly nuanced, and one of them is incredibly complex. The other one is Crom, right? I'll leave it up to you to decide which one I'm talking about there.
Timbo also hates my wolf, for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's true.
So before we switch off of the Crom/ZSS conversation, Stars in chat and has tuned in listening, and I'm supposed to ask you about your Crom amiibo, Lion. What is the deal with that?
So Crom's amiibo came out like near my birthday last year, I think. That sounds right. And so, like, I bought, like, 3 for myself. Ryan bought me one, another one of my friends. So I had, like, this huge Crom amiibo collection in the other room in Timbo's space.
I know. I'm looking at it.
But yeah, no, Ryan bought me one, so...
It's been a good episode. I'm going to log off. This was good. Thank you so much. Ryan.
That's okay. Yeah, you did gotta do
And Ryan even went the extra mile. He got me one from Japan. So
wow.
That was really cool.
Your friends all need to get you ZSS amiibos now. Maybe Donkey Kong one. I've seen the Lion DK.
The Lion DK exists.
I would say that you have played Donkey Kong before. You have picked him in the character select screen.
DK is funny because it's like, if you're a good enough player, you're just like, oh yeah, I can kind of do some things. Like, obviously, yeah. It's really funny. Like, obviously, mine's not as good as, like, Moise, who always underrates himself. But, like,
True.
Good players, DKs, are like, yeah, I could probably, like, get 5th at a local with this.
Yeah, Caden's picked up a DK one time, and he was 3-stocking me within, like, 2 games, so... he's just one of those characters where it's like, yeah, I could probably get really far until I don't. I could probably get really far until someone just makes me not be able to play the game.
Then you play someone who's playing their main, and you're like, oh, right, I die at 0.
I know we wanted to pivot away from the Crom ZSS thing, but what ultimately, other than, me being the devil on your shoulder, what ultimately, confirmed that you wanted to make the switch? Because I know I had DM'd you a lot. You had been posting on Twitter that it wasn't immediate, right? It was you had played CSS for months before you actually said, you know what, I'm going to commit. So what about the 2 characters is different, and why did you, settle or end up with ZSS?
So the hardest thing about playing Crom at a certain point, and the good ditties in this state make you feel this way all the time, like TCMK, Graham, like, Crom is so reliant on starting combos by either crossing you up in the air or hitting you with an aerial.
Any of them, really. Any area.
Really, yeah, any of them work. But a lot of his grounded options, because good players can shut jab down, that's like a huge knowledge check in that matchup, is like, how much do I get away with jabbing? And good players can shut that down. And so, like, the only way you're getting big damage on these guys is if you hit them in the air. And someone like TCMK, when he plays Diddy, is so good at just being on the other side of the stage and being like, I'm not going to overextend. I'm going to make you nickel and dime me to take this stock. And by the way, I'm Diddy Kong, so if I touch you, you might just explode. And ZSS is a lot better at stringing hits. So even if I hit them with an F tilt that doesn't necessarily have a true follow-up, I'm still in a good spot. And another thing about this, and I think a lot of people overrate swords in general, because having a fast jab you can mash in this game is like super important. And people don't realize it. It's important. And ZSS is frame one. It's no faster. Yeah, because, I mean, it's important both offensively and defensively, because on offense, we talk about all these, extensions in terms of, like, I can F-tilt someone, and depending on their option, I can run up to them with my frame one jab. And defensively, it's even bigger, because Crom gets trapped in grounded hit stun against good players a lot. And his fastest grounded move is frame 5. So his options now become shield is the fastest, and spot dodge is the second fastest. And you're really only like throwing out hitboxes if you think, well, they don't really have a lot of advantage on me frame-wise. Whereas ZSS, my jab's faster than my spot dodge. So like spot dodging out a hit stun's almost not optimal, depending on if they jump or not. And the game changes a lot there. Like, Diddy's really good. Wolf is also really good at this, at just getting these strings. Sheik is another one that get these strings that aren't necessarily true, but you're in grounded hit stun, and if your fastest button is frame 5, you just feel trapped. And all of a sudden, this combo that should have been 30% turns into a 60% string, and then you're Crom off stage, and you're like, okay, well, hopefully today's not the day I die. And then you die. I actually think Crom's pretty good. I don't want to be too negative on him, but I definitely think ZSS has kind of become a better fit over time.
Who would have seen that coming? That's crazy. That's fantastic. Look at that.
Just a little bit. So
blame Timbo.
Right, and I will. I mean, I'll blame him for you going forward. So then that's going to be really interesting because, for instance, like, who Crom's best and worst matchups are, right? Do you feel like that you have some kind of a knowledge, switching over to ZSS, what her good and bad matchups are?
I have a good idea what her matchup chart looks like. I don't have a good idea on certain matchups yet, like, how do I win? Which is funny. That's like the biggest reason why I would get back on Wi-Fi, is just kind of understanding how to beat certain characters. But yeah, like, one of my better set wins was on Kamui, who's a Joker player, and that's widely considered Crom's worst matchup. So like you're saying, I had enough information that even if this matchup with Crom was bad, I felt like I could still win this, but like, I'm still trying to figure out on some of ZSS's matchups, like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing here? It took me a while to figure out how to fight Squirtle with her, because he's just so small and
Right,
around.
that's what you
Yeah,
do.
Squirtle's small for every character, unless maybe it's one of the stupid little kids that I can't stand in the game.
You switch to Young Link. That's how you play against Squirtle.
Right.
You pull out the pocket Young Link until they go back to a different character.
Right.
That's why I consider Wolf a little bit, because I'm like, Wolfmare kind of just hits everything.
Oh, that's crazy. You mean Wolfmare, The move that's better than almost the entire cast. That's why.
Yeah, that's a decent move. But I think when offline gets back, I'll be full ZSS. It's just kind of getting there because we're in the Wi-Fi era.
That's good. And you had a lot of success with your Crom. There's a little bit of a spicy take, but there are Cincy players out there who will remain unnamed who think there's an argument that you were the best Crom in Ohio when you were the best Crom in Ohio who went to locals and participated. Or who went to monthlies and participated while you were playing Crom. I know you could be like, oh no, this person's better than me, which is I know it's coming because I know how you are. But there's an argument that you were the best, if not one of the best Croms in Ohio when you were playing Crom.
Yeah, I always point to GoMan just because GoMan had some results at I think Glitch 8 was one of his better tournaments. He got like 49th at an A tier. But I do think like I was close to him, if not similar in skill, and GoMan's been playing since Smash 4. I love Adam. He's a great guy. So I mean, I'd give it to him. Just he's got the results. He's been playing longer, but I definitely felt like I was on the come up. It's been a little interesting because I had only been playing Smash for about a year when quarantine started. Yep. Whereas some people, it's like, yeah, I've been playing for 5 years. So
I've been playing since Brawl.
Right. So it's like I was on the come up, and then COVID kind of came in, and I was like, man, like I wanted some of these results a little bit longer, but
you'll get your shot though. You'll get your shot. Yeah.
I'll get my shot. Yeah. Yeah. The vaccine news has been a really big positive. So
you'll get your shot, and then when you get ninth at every single monthly. You'll get to write about it, right? You'll get to do your writing about top A. Yeah. It'll be good.
Yeah. So
the good news is, because a lot of people do like to pit mains against each other, but I got a while before people will say my ZSS is close to doorstop. So.
I would say so. Yeah.
So I'm out of those conversations. That's honestly a big plus. I'm like, no one has to talk about it. Doorstop's better. I'll keep working.
Yeah,
focus on him.
Because the bar is sky high for that one. Listen,
Timbo's the best Rob in the house.
Yeah, the bar for Crom is underground. ZSS is a little bit elevated. Rob between me and the Fort Rob's better than me. It's pretty high up there.
The Fort Rob.
See, it's like I was saying at last Friday's open arena that Dragon Squad's been doing when Timbo finally made an appearance and he played his Rob. I was giving kudos to his coach mindset for coaching him and being his Rob coach player.
You got it twisted.
No, I don't have.
I played, so I jumped in that arena with my Pro Controller connected because I had Hades open in the background. I was like, you know what? I'll try a Pro Controller. It is impossible to miss an attack cancel with Pro Controller. I don't think people talk about that enough. That is like wave bouncing and attack canceling on a Pro Controller is like the easiest tech in the entire world. And I went back to my game controller.
I'm a Pro Controller user.
What is that? I had no idea it was that easy. That's wild. It's wild to me how much easier it is to play with a Pro Controller. I'll not make the switch because I played for like a year and a half on GameCube, and I like my Pro Controller too much right now to ruin it. Like I ruin my GameCube controllers when I'm playing. So
yeah.
So, you talked a little bit, Lion, that you had been doing some online tournaments. I think you signed up for a few of our Coronaus.
Yeah.
Are you one of the many players that are getting to the point of just online tournament fatigue at this point, and so you're just kind of taking a little bit of a break, or did you do that because you're in the middle of this character crisis that Timbo threw you into inadvertently by telling you to play ZSS?
There's no crisis. He's decided.
There's a little bit of both there. A big thing for me with Wi-Fi, like I'm going to play offline Smash tomorrow. I'm really excited. So this is going to be like a half-baked theory, but I have it, and whether people agree or not is whatever. So at the beginning of the Wi-Fi era, I found the practice to be really valuable because we weren't so far gone from offline that people still played with pretty similar offline tendencies. But now that people have only played online for like 9 months and have been abusing online for 9 months, I'm just like, this isn't even the same game at this point. I think it kind of goes back to that, like, you know, Smash players are very dedicated to their game. And when you analyze things so hard and you're only getting that one type of gameplay, which is the 5+ frames of delay on Nintendo Switch Online, they start to see like, oh, well, this is always working. I've seen it with my own gameplay. I was playing Tatsu in friendlies online like the day before I went to go hang out in Columbus with those guys. And I was doing well against him online, and then I showed up to that house the next day and he was kicking my butt. And I was like, wait, this stuff that I thought was working just isn't working. And it was really eye-opening to me because I was like, oh, this isn't even just how people are playing against me. The things that I'm doing online that are working consistently, I'm getting bullied for offline. And
Cole played offline and said, "You mean approaching with wave bounce paralyzer and neutral always isn't a good idea?" Online, you get blown up for it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was like, oh man. I mean, I was still playing Crom too. I was like, man, all my disadvantage habits, I am just getting eaten alive. Especially because, you know, Tatsu's gotten a lot better over this time frame. And yeah, I mean, it was really eye-opening because I was like, wow, this is... I think a lot of people are like, they want to believe that they're going to immediately transition out of online to offline again, but I think people are going to realize, like, it's going to be a few months before people are like, oh, right, okay, so this is the meta again. This is what works.
I think it'll take like 15 rolling into a charge smash attack out of the corner for people to realize that they have developed some bad habits, you know? Like,
right. Like people have asked me, like, oh, like we have some Northwest Ohio group chats. People have asked me, like, oh, how do you think the first local is going to go? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I could win it. I could get like 5th, and I wouldn't be surprised because I might do something that just doesn't work over and over again. And yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I've kind of just been like a little bit like, I'm gonna lay back. I'm gonna enjoy the other things in life, and
because.
Hades, anime, other video games.
God, is that all you think about, Timbo? Is Hades?
No.
Jeez.
Yes.
So what else? Like, what other games do you enjoy playing besides Hades, Timbo? Not talking to you. Talking to Lion. What other games do you enjoy playing besides Smash?
So, the ones I've been playing lately, I played Hades a bit. I'm trying to make it through the newest Pokemon game so I can take TCMK on in the Champions Cup, beat Sasuke Jr. I'll play Mario Kart with my friends quite a bit. Big Fire Emblem fan, big RPG fan. So, I play like a lot of everything. The only thing is Smash is like the only like competitive multiplayer I play. So I don't really play like Call of Duty or Overwatch or I don't even know some of the games' names anymore. Valorant, yeah.
You said some of those young kid games. I don't know what the Zoomers are playing.
Right, what are the Zoomers playing?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So some people may know, some people may not know, but you know, you are the head of IDG Official.
Yes.
And that is located up there around the Toledo area.
Correct. Yep.
Tell us a little bit about IDG Official. What do they do? What services, you know, are offered, and what your role is with them?
Yeah, so IDG kind of has been around, I would say for the most part, since competitive Smash in Toledo, at least like Smash 4. And since I'm a little newer to the scene than most people, I don't know how far back it goes, but it's been like 5+ years. of them organizing tournaments. And it was mostly Smash for like 3.5 years. And there was a little bit of a transition in terms of who the people running it were. And they wanted to bring me on like March of last year. No, I feel like it almost has to be longer than that. I don't even remember. It was like August of 2018. Yeah, that sounds right. And one of the things we were talking about then is, well, what do we want to do more than Smash? And I remember me and other people started pining hard for Street Fighter, which has become a big part of what we do. So we still have the Smash side. We run Smash locals and FGC locals alongside them. And then the big event that we run now that, I think our whole team is super proud of is we run this monthly called Equalizer, which for the Smash side has done pretty good numbers. I think Equalizer 2 or 3 Smash was like 75 people. And we had Toast and Zenoto. And that was a really good set, number 1 in Michigan versus number 1 in Ohio at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, nice.
But I think as cool as our Smash achievements have been, I think the thing that a lot of our team has been proud of is we have become such a big presence in the Ohio FGC. And, we run, the numbers that the FGC brackets get don't necessarily compare to Smash because FGC is a little bit more spread out for different games because we run more than Street Fighter now. We run Unist, we run Guilty. We're going to run Guilty Gear when it comes out. We ran Grand Blue. Tekken was a big one. And that Equalizer that I said, our Smash bracket was like 75 people. We had 230 people total.
Oh, wow.
So we very quickly became a small local FGC scene to an event where we had over 100 people show up for those types of titles.
Nice.
And so yeah, we've become both a Smash and traditional fighter TO group for this region. We're going to launch merchandise, I think, which will be pretty interesting. We got a lot of ideas, and we have a lot of talented people. It's been really cool to see what our team does. One of our graphics guys, really both of them, have been doing work for, how Melee has been doing this like 5 days of Melee event or whatever this week. I don't know if you follow Melee much.
I did see that.
The VOD template was made by one of our guys, and then another guy is like helping run the event and do production for the event. So it's great to see, we all work together, but a lot of us end up being successful on our own. And then my role within it is I do a lot of the Smash kind of, hey, come to our event, hey, come to our event, hey, come to our event. And then other than that, I usually try to just keep myself involved in a lot of the tougher decisions that, person A wants this, person B wants this. I work mostly with Ryan. Ryan's like the person I work with a ton. Great guy, one of the best guys in our scene because, even at our locals, I'll enter, and I've entered a few of the monthlies, and Ryan is the one who doesn't enter anything, doesn't ask for anything, shows up, TOs the whole time. I mean, there's been tweets from Smashers from so many different regions that go, Ryan, you are like the best person for this. And he, I work really closely with him, and kind of, Ryan will look to me when he's always like, I don't know what to do here. Can you give me some help? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah, follow Deuster on Twitter is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Ryan. Yeah, follow Deuster on Twitter. He is.
Yeah, he's
the
in Twitch
glue
chat.
To our scene.
He's in Twitch chat right now, loving that you're stroking his ego. He says, "Yeah, stroke my ego, please." So he sounds like he's got a good personality to him. and
Yes,
whatnot.
yes, he does.
And you know, I have to say that with what you said there, Lion, you know, that goes a long way. I mean, you know, Dragon Squad, you know, right now is just Timbo and I. And it's very important to, you know, work with people that, you know, you get along with, but also where there's, you know, somebody that can make the tough decision. You know, sometimes if I struggle with, if it's something that, you know, Dragon Squad should do, you know, I'll run it by Timbo. And I like the fact that he's just like, no, mom's a no, you know, or vice versa. You know,
I have in the past been known to be like, how about no? How about we don't?
You know, or, you know, maybe it's an idea that I have and he's like, I like it, but let's go this way with it instead. You know, so it's very important, you know, to, you know, work with people, you know, in, I think, this type of a community, you know, with what IDG does up in, you know, the Toledo area, what, you know, Dragon Squad's trying to do in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, that you can have people that can make the, you know, hard decisions and have people that you can bounce ideas off of as well.
And sometimes, sometimes I reject her ideas. Like, she was like, who is this coal lion lamp person? Should we have him on our show? And I'm like, no. Absolutely. Don't do it. She said, you know what, Timbo?
Of course not.
She said, sit down, shut up, show up on Saturday at 7. We're going to interview him. I said, you know what?
Yeah, I mean,
we'll
all in all, you know, that's the important thing of those 3 words behind my name, CEO, executive decision maker.
She makes about 12 times what I make, so we'll have to talk about that.
Right.
Okay.
Ryan can tell you how many times, like, I'll come up to him, I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, okay, this. I'm like, do you need me to play bad cop? I'll play bad cop today.
Yeah, there's always gotta be a couple of those people, you know, that you know, it's like, okay, it's your turn to play bad cop today. Okay, you know, I'll do it. Yeah.
right.
You know,
So,
I mean, it's you know, it's never anything that anybody wants to do, right? But
right.
you know, sometimes, unfortunately, it has to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, that's not like me to like have a long pause. I do just a train of thought just went completely out of my head.
Just derail.
Yeah.
Your train of thought derailed.
Yeah.
Laid waste to the surrounding area. That's
Yeah,
not good.
it did. It's like I had a little bit of a derail. So this is another question that Timbo and I always like to ask, and it kind of goes back to what Timbo touched on as far as the mentality goes, but. You know, what advice would you give somebody who is playing Smash competitive or casually, let's say, you know, but they're like, you know, I really want to get into the competitive aspect of it. You know, what advice would you give somebody like that in your local scene that came up and said, hey, Lion, you know, I kind of want to move on from this casual play and I want to try and start getting more competitive in my gameplay?
Yeah. So, a big thing I try to do a lot is I both try to. It's funny you mentioned this because I both try to coach a lot of people in our scene, and I try to, if I see someone new at a local, I'll be like, "Hey, come sit down, talk to me about the game. Let's play a few friendlies." One of the biggest things I always tell people is one of the first things you want to do is figure out what you want. Because there's a lot of people, especially on Smash Twitter, that'll make you believe that like the only valuable people in the scene are the people who win. And that's just not true. Every local, you know, I think the stat people throw around is like 50% of the people go 1 and 2 or worse. And obviously people usually don't have that goal in mind, but I always am like, what do you want to enjoy? How do you want to enjoy this game? Do you want to play it a lot? Do you want to work really hard? Do you want to pick up a top tier? Or do you just want to kind of do this? If you do well occasionally, you know, get a few funny Donkey Kong clips like Timbo. Timbo and I have had this conversation a lot. I'm like, you can be the best DK in Cincy and like you can play DK. You just might get dutied on every time you run into Doorstop or TCMK in bracket.
Yeah.
So that was a big. I don't know if either of you have heard of Straw Hat Kid. He's kind of our up and coming 13-year-old Pac-Man player that I've coached a ton. That was one of the things he was kind of struggling over recently this summer, was kind of like, I feel stuck with the game, which we all end up doing from time to time. And I was like, okay, well, I was like, here's where you're at. What do you want? I was like, because if you say you want to be good, you got to go hit training mode. You got to start practicing these things. You got to start mixing up more. And I was like, but you're 13 too. Like, if you are like, I've got 4 years of being a kid. I want to enjoy coming to Smash tournaments and talking to people and hanging out, but I also want to go play other games and enjoy other things in life more often. Like, you can enjoy it and be decent. So I think establishing what you want to do with the game is very important from the get-go, because I think a lot of people have number one in their region aspirations, but not a number one in their region work rate. Because they'll be like, yeah, I want to be the best player in their region, but they're not watching VODs. They're not in training mode. They're not labbing new setups. They're not discovering new things. And so once that's established, I usually try to talk to them about both how you get better while playing the game and how you get better while not playing the game. Because a big thing, I said I'm not playing the game much at all, but I've been watching so many VODs and writing down certain things. You don't understand how... I always say this, and it's interesting. You don't understand how bad everyone is at the game. You can put any player on the pedestal, but at the same time, Smash has so many decisions. Like, there's a video of Mars reviewing Genesis 7 Grand Finals with MKLeo, and I think the first stock he takes in like 15 seconds or something like that. It was ridiculously fast. And you hear him talking about the game, he's like, yeah, MKLeo is going to do this super predictable side B, and then he gets an air flip kick for it. And it's like, that is the best player in the world, but even he still has this predictable tendency that another player can pick up on. And the fact of the matter is we're all humans playing this game. So watching yourself when you do well and watching yourself when you don't do well are two very important things. And some people focus on one or the other too much. They think, I'm only going to watch VODs of me playing poorly so I can figure out what I shouldn't be doing. But you also should watch like, oh, I got this cool 0 to death. Let me go watch that back so I can do that again to the next guy who does a similar option. And that's a huge thing I tell a lot of people, because people think they can only study VODs of like their competitive sets. But like, I'll do something in a friendly and I'm saving it. I'm watching it back. And like I said, I'm trying to figure out, how do I do that again? How do I keep repeating that setup so that I can kill the next person like that? So watching VODs is huge. I think something that a lot of players starting out with need to understand, and a lot of people need to get better with it, is their movement. The big thing that makes a platform fighter is in most space. I think I've gotten Nintendo a few times on that. I'm like, work on your movement. Get comfortable with it. Because being a platform fighter, you have so many options in terms of movement. The funny thing about, like, I could go watch me play and I could go watch Mars play, and we're picking the same attacks because there's only so many attacks in the game. But the timings, the spacings, the movement, the conditioning that goes into that, people don't pay attention to those things enough. So I'm always like, work on your movement. I have to do it all the time. Like, the amount of times I've dash attacked on a platform because I just didn't run off is mind-blowing. And the other thing that I tell them is, the thing I said about friendlies earlier, where it's like, you could do this thing that works over and over again against people below your skill or at your skill, but your playstyle shouldn't be this way if it's not going to work against people better than you. So if you have this habit, you can only spam it for so long until you realize, like, well, shoot. That's like one of the biggest things when I switched from Crom to ZSS. I very much played Crom. I say this a lot now. I played Crom in Smash Ultimate, and I've become so much more of a better Ultimate player, and it's been a hard process for me. It's been like one of the most frustrating things because, like, it's easier to not have results and then get better because you don't have expectations, whereas, like, you know, my Chrome was here and I had to learn all these things with Zero Suit, and I'm still learning so many things with Zero Suit, and it's frustrating because I just want to be as good as I was. But applying that to my own Switch, you know, learning to be a better player fundamentally has been huge for me, and it's made me realize that I've gotten better at beating people who don't just kind of like go, oh, I can't counter this Crom option. which is me admitting I was carried. I'll admit it. So, yeah.
That's
everyone is, though.
That's good advice. I mean, I think just from the initial, you know, what do you want out of this? You know?
Yeah.
And I think that may be the best piece of advice that I've heard so far, out of the, you know, this is the fourth one we've done. So far, I'm going to say for me personally that ranks number one as, you know, some of the best piece of advice is, what do you want out of this? Because if you can't answer that question, then I think other things can fall into play. You know, so I think that's some solid advice that you gave there.
And a big thing with that, honestly, and I always try to, like, establish this, is I think too many people think they're, like, they have this, like, anime protagonist mindset, like, I'm going to be PGR, I got to be the best player in the world, and it's like, dude, you can come hang out. Like, I want competitive Smash sometimes to get away from the, like, the social structure is only the best players matter. Obviously, that's not how it is 100%, but yeah, sometimes it's like, it's that way too much. And I'm like, dude, you can just come hang out, and if you enjoy the game, like, yeah, like, you're as valuable as anyone.
Absolutely.
So,
Timbo, I think you were going to say something a minute ago.
I was going to say that was the best piece of advice, and the other best piece of advice was I heard you tell all the Crom mains to stop playing Crom. I might have paraphrased a little bit, but I'll go back and clip it later. But that was also really, really good. I liked that a lot.
Right.
I'm a big Winner fan, so
fair enough.
I'm not gonna dissuade Winner from doing his thing, because
right, yeah. I don't know that anybody could, not even Timbo. So we're a little bit past.
Low key, you could just play Lucina, but go ahead.
We're a little bit past top of the hour. No big deal. Like I said, it's casual, but you know, try and keep it at about an hour. Before I say anything else, you know, go ahead and plug any of your socials that you want to, Lion. Twitch, Twitter, for yourself, or IDG, whatever.
Yeah, so just follow at IDG Official on Twitter. Follow Deuster. Because I think some people look at me. I tell Ryan this all the time. I'm like, I want you to be more prevalent in the situations where people look at me, because you're just as big in the Smash scene for us as anyone. Similarly, follow JDMH. He's our production guy. He is killing it right now. And then, yeah, it's our Twitch channel is IDG Smash. That's where you would get all our locals and monthlies when they come back. And then we also have IDG FGC, which, if you are interested in FGC, like I said, we have probably the biggest consistent monthly. It's not the biggest tournament in Ohio because Raj exists, but when that gets back to firing up. If you are interested at all at the FGC scene, Lunar is definitely one of the people that I talk to her and I'd be like, yeah, pick up Street Fighter. Come to our monthly. We have a great group of people. Talk to them. So that's another thing if you're interested in. And my Twitch is Buy Me a Lamp. I don't know when I'll start streaming. Whenever I start picking up Smash again, maybe, but we'll see.
Or
Hades. Yeah, Hades.
I knew it.
You can see how bad I am at Hades.
On his own. He got it.
I knew.
Timbo, I had a realization with Hades.
what's that?
So you know how it was like a bow player?
Yeah.
I just needed to mash with shield. I do so much better.
So I was talking to Mikkel, and because he was trying to play Hades, I was like, Mikkel, literally just mash. He's like, why don't you do this just mash? And I was like, oh.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, if you just play, I was like, yeah, if you just play really fast, they don't have the chance to play the. I was like, wait,
weird.
hold on.
Everything is
just
smash.
just be a masher. In Hades, smashing is optimal.
Yeah.
So basically,
I learned
Hades is like ultimate just mash buttons.
Yeah, you just press a lot of buttons.
Yeah.
And the more
Yeah.
often that you press the good ones, the more often you'll do well. So there you go.
Yeah,
they
that's what
sound
I'm
very
learning.
similar.
Yeah, it's the same.
Well, Lion, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time out on this Saturday evening to talk with us. It was great getting to know you better. For those that are tuned in watching, I'm definitely going to plug Curb Stomped, January 23rd, online this year. Doubles and singles, $50 for doubles, $100 for singles. So go get signed up. Pages up at Smash GG. Timbo, thank you for joining. Thanks for those that tuned in and to our Spotlight series. And I hope everybody has a great holiday, a safe, I say safe, be safe out there. We all want this pandemic to go away. I know everybody wants to see their families at Christmas, but if you're going to do it safely. Wear your mask, but more importantly, have a very Merry Christmas. Again, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. Momza, Timbo, and Lion, we're out of here.